Hi, and welcome to Yeshiva Shem V'Aver. I'm Rabbi David Katz. You have tuned in to our new series that is dedicated, we said this last time, we'll say it again, Baruch ben Yoel Tova and Liza Leah Basar. That's, I don't know if I'm going to say how often I'm going to say that, but that is who this series is dedicated to. And how long the series goes, I don't know. But we're going to be doing Psalms in depth. We are starting with Psalm number 72. It is officially King David's last psalm. Even though it's not number 150, he ends the psalm by saying, I essentially am finished. Whatever that means. So this is our third class. We give an intro. And we gave the first two verses, first verse. And today is Psalm Tehillim number 3. And again, as we go by our generic style of listings, it's just going to go 3, 4, 5, and onwards. Hopefully we can try to get some titles on every class. There you go. So this is Psalm number 72. And we're going to cover, hopefully, verses 2 and 3. Okay? And we're, by the way, we're doing the style of the old Shir Hashirim classes. Approximately 1 or 2 verses for an hour. Reading the translation of the verse in English. Covering the commentary Shai Lamora. It is not the original Shai Lamora, it's the publishing company. And what they've done is they've gathered the most appropriate commentaries. Malbim, Radak, Rashi, just to name a few. Just to name a few. Mitsudas David. So he makes a flowing commentary, and I think it's very good. In fact, it's awesome. It's one of the best. It's the best I've seen. It really brings Tehillim to life. Questions, comments, or feedback, I can be reached at Rabbi Katz at virtualyeshiva.com. And I guess I can just urge you, look to the blog, sulmazal.blogspot.com, and you'll see the link for all the Shir Hashirim we did. We did every verse of Shir Hashirim for an hour, commentary of the Vilna Gaon. It ran to about 110 plus classes. So this series is molded after that, and I mean, it's King David, King Solomon, they're two peas of the pod, so it's fitting. As we said, our psalm began with the word Lishlomo, to Solomon. And as we know, King Solomon's Song of Songs, Shir Hashirim, began with Shir Hashirim Asher Lishlomo, Song of Songs, that is to Solomon. Where David left off as a charge to Solomon his son, Solomon picked up the baton, ran with it, built the first temple, and the saga was born. With that said, let's go. Okay. I guess I can, I guess I'll just read every week we finish a verse. The following week I'll catch you up. It's like it's called Advechlal, right? Inclusively reading. So to begin with verse 1, but realize this class is verses 2 and 3. We already did verse 1 last week. But again, I'll just read the English to get you caught up so it's not totally out of context. For Solomon, O God, your judgments to the king give in your righteousness to the son of the king. May he judge your people with righteousness, and your poor with justice. May mountains bear peace to the people, and hills through righteousness. There you have the English. And into the commentary itself. Verse number 2, you will judge your people with righteousness. That he should not glorify the presence of greatness, like perceived greatness. Perceived greatness is not exactly real greatness. Let's say it's O.J. Simpson buying off the jury, right? He's O.J. Simpson. That kind of thing. It's really using power to sway the judicial system. Or rich people, same thing. In their battles with the poor. So when the poor are being tread upon by somebody of stature in a not good way, he should judge your people with righteousness. In the destitute with justice. That he should judge the poor with justice. Just like that we say you shouldn't glorify the poor in their battle, that the poor should not be tread upon. It brings a verse in Vayikra 19:15, stating as such as a proof that you shouldn't carry the face of the poor and not glorify the face of the great. With righteousness you will judge your people. Right, so it's the opposite also. You shouldn't glorify the weak and destitute in face of the rich for the sake of ill-advised justice. Justice is justice is justice. That's verse number 2. Verse number 3. In the merit of tzedakah. Tzedakah can mean charity. It can mean righteousness. It can also mean sharing. So the merit of, and some words are just not translatable, and tzedakah is one of them. So let's try to get used to some Hebrew words, not for the sake of learning the Hebrew, but for the sake of translation. It's just not applicable. In the merit of tzedakah that you do, the mountains and valleys should carry peace to the nation by means of making exponential growth in produce. And that can be a physical or spiritual produce. That then no creation or creature will have a suffering eye, and the peace will be found amongst man and his friend. Okay, that's the basic premise of 2 and 3. That by this righteousness and charity and sharing, the hills and valleys should not be seen as an impediment. All right, you have your land, I have mine. But rather, it's like a wave of carrying the peace to the people. Totally different perspective of the land. That by making the produce grow, as you know, it's like in miniature golf, when you got to get the ball in the middle, like valley, you got to push the ball over the first hump to get it into the hole. So don't view it as an impediment, as if to say, well, how can I get the ball there? Use the hill. You actually use the terrain to spread the light. Totally different way of viewing the land. And then no creation has suffering of the eye. Right? I don't look down on you. You don't look down on me. We work together, and peace can be found between man and his friend. All right, those are the 2 verses. Now let's go into the explanation of the concepts. And I'll tell you what, it feels good to do this series again. Shir Shirim is all over again. This is great, I'll tell you. Feels like visiting an old friend. This was the first class I ever taught, by the way. Shir Shirim back in the day, so it's a good feeling to come back. Okay, this is big. I just saw before class, if you remember in last week's Parsha, those that follow along, Tetzaveh, and going back, I think, even to Jethro, right? Mishpatim and Jethro. Do you guys remember me saying that the people is Ger Tzedek code for Ger, and Bnei Yisrael is code for Jew. You guys aware of this? I've been saying this for the last couple weeks. Right? So, again, in the last Parsha, it was really, really profound with the golden calf episode. That when Moshe was, let's say, battling Hashem with the people, and then there were Bnei Yisrael, then there was the entire people, the code really worked well. Scary well. Because it was so close to not being right. Which wouldn't have been a big deal. You just say, okay, code is not 100%. Let's say it's like 90% code. And then how do you answer the anomaly? It's an anomaly. Well, so far we haven't had the anomaly. Now, the golden calf, it's like you really get close to the edge in describing the code this way. I don't know if you guys watched tennis in the 90s. Andre Agassi was the best in the 90s. Maybe you'll argue Pete Sampras. I'll say Andre Agassi. Because he would hit the ball on sharp angles every time right on the line. You guys remember that? In the 90s? Every time he would hit the ball right on the line. And you're saying, like, man, how does he... I mean, 1 centimeter, it's over. And this is the code of Am, the people, and the children of Israel. I'm calling it the code because it really is code. You know, when you take this idea that, let's say, the Gerim are the nation, the people, and Moshe is saying to God, hey, these are your people. God says, no, they're your people. And they're fighting over the people. They're making the golden calf. I mean, it's just uncanny how the story erupts into 3D once you make these distinctions. And if you don't make these distinctions, the whole Torah becomes, yeah, the guy and the man, the guy, they went in the field, the place where it's just kind of going on and on and on and on. It's like, you know, what do you call Jews? Oh, Jews are the people, the children of Israel, the nation. Well, what does it mean? It's like saying, what does God mean when it's Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Shem Elokim? It doesn't really matter. It's just God. So it's it's really a popular thing to do. Oh, poetic. God's being poetic. No, he isn't. The Torah is not particularly a poetic text. At least I don't think so. What it is deeply profound, and that's an understatement. And it's if you're looking at it for poetry, I think you kind of missed the point. It's life. Maybe you could call it poetic justice, but the words are, every letter is profound when you get into this, when the ger comes into focus. And King David is no different. He picks up the 5 books of Tehillim, Psalms, where the Torah left off. And he uses those words. So I just want to make this clear. And Jason, you'll love this. I saw tonight, as I remembered, in researching the golden calf, where Moshe is told by Hashem, you can only see my back. And I remember the Arizal gave a really nice explanation of what that means. For anybody interested in doing some homework, what's called Tikkun Chatzos, night learning, is the level of the repair of the golden calf. And the Arizal says from that literally comes everything. From learning at night is the engine that runs basically the Torah of Mashiach. That's not why I'm bringing this, though. What I'm bringing is in that learning is chapter 6 of Otzrot Chaim, written by the student Chaim Vitol of the Arizal. He says clearly, openly, beferush, meaning explicitly, in the Torah, the people are the Erev Rav who are seeking to megayer, to convert. And we all know that what makes them Erev Rav is when they convert not for the sake of heaven. Thus, the conversion for the sake of heaven can only be when they become proper Gerim. And that is why Moses brought them out of Egypt. So there it is confirmed. The people are the Erev Rav, which in the Erev Rav, we know contains, let's say, the kosher source, the Gerim. Ideally, what Moshe wanted was the Erev Rav to not be Erev Rav conversion, not for the sake of heaven, but to completely become Gerim and become Gerim. As the Zohar states, making Gerim is the highest honor to God. So I just want to make that clear. The people, the nation of the Torah, to cut to the chase, if they're getting in trouble, it's the Erev Rav faction, but literally, there's good guys there too, and it is the bigger nation of Erev Rav / Gerim. Pretty interesting, I might say. Jason, how do you like that? Okay, now, just to hash over some interesting concepts in these two verses, we find the word tzedek, righteousness. I'd like to qualify tzedek and mishpat, righteousness and justice, with the word yafeh. Yafeh means nice. I'll tell you why the word nice matters. I know in English it's kind of a very benign word. You know, what do you think of Bob? He's nice. This is not what I mean. Judgment has to be nice. Right? When it's not when you're taking judgment into account. You know, let's say, fair and square can still be a bit rigid with judgment. You want to be, if you're going to render righteousness and judgment together, you want it to be also nice. Proper, but nice. Let's say, I don't know, I owe you $100, and it came out, whatever it is, I owe you now, right now. And let's say the guy I owe it to, there was a misunderstanding. And technically, in 5 minutes from now, he is owed the $100. But he's dealing with a poor guy who has a big ball of gun. I mean, don't hold me to this din, like according to Shulchan Aruch, whatever. I'm just giving a off-the-cuff concept. Let's say it's possible to pay it in 2 payments. Whatever it is. Be nice. Strict justice can be very rigid and harsh. But rendering it nicely is just menschlich. So I think, when King David is charging King Solomon with the Noahide laws, and all the time, be astute in judgment and righteousness with the poor and the people. You see, if you notice the way I ended the verse 3, make shalom, peace, and amongst man and his friend. So if everyone is getting, let's say, the letter of the law thrown in their face, that doesn't do it good either. This is really the essence between the kingdom of David and Moses. Moses is chastised in the Midrash with an idea from the book of Job. The idea is Moses is the lawgiver, and from Moses' point of view, it's like you're all equally responsible to serve God. All of you. You're all servants of God. Even take it to a bit in the derogatory sense. That's why I'm presenting it that way. And God says, Moshe, you are a king, and it's pretty good. But do you really think that I treat like the really righteous guy the same as the really not righteous guy? So your kingdom doesn't fully express who God is. King David is different, that he has a relationship with every subject on his level. And King David's telling King Solomon, that's what you need to do. You don't just be cold-hearted. Have heart. Have warmth on your heart. If you remember last week, we actually said in the first verse, have a heart that understands to hear justice. And that's really what it's about. Be able to hear the person and don't just come down on them. That's the kind of judgment and righteousness we're after here. If you remember, just know this, the entire Psalm 72 is Noahide law. That's what he's talking about. And fathom this, King David ends his Psalms with 72 as a charge to King Solomon that he should really master Noahide law. The idea is brought in the Zohar. This is the answer. Noahide law is very harsh and din, judgment. Go on a Facebook forum and you can see it very clearly, right? Rabbi, tell me all the things I can't do. There's a famous thing also by Baal Teshuvas, right? Hey, Rabbi, tell me what I can't do. In the Arizal's book on reincarnation, Sefer Gugulim, not to be confused with Shar Gugulim, he ends by saying, like, the ultimate level of everything is mercy. And it can either be a spear, a remach, or it can be rachim, as in rachimim, as in mercy. So Noahide law is judgment. And the Noahide asks the rabbi, in this case, King Solomon, oh Rabbi, tell me the things that I can't do, and hopefully if I do it wrong, I get to die. Unfortunately, we see this on Facebook all too often, don't we? Do I get to die today, Rabbi? For doing, but he says, the Zohar says that's the nature of the territory. People just do this. So the job of a rabbi, in this case King Solomon, is to take the judgment and make it absolutely merciful. And the Noahide laws are the essence of that practice. If we can do that with everything in life, that's everything. Everything is din. Marriage is din. Friendship is din. Now there are degrees and degrees of din, which is judgment. But really everything in this world is din, on some level. Our job is to elevate it and bring it down as compassion and mercy. That's what I'm saying, be nice. Right? It's not nice to say, well, the Rambam says you're dead if you do this. Even the Rambam might say that. But are you learning the Rambam correctly? Are you bringing everything into focus? Now, if you kill a guy, okay, you're capital punishment. But look for the real sweet, that's right. Look for the sweet levels of Torah. Look to sweeten the judgment. Judge your neighbor with merit. Bring him along. Find the good answer. If you keep Shabbos, you die. How many of us have heard that every day? Right? You can't keep Shabbos or you die. So that's like an example of everything. There's always a reason to die or cut your hand off or something. Right? Eye for an eye. Poke his eye out. April, I saw you correct somebody the other day, right? Poke his eye out. Well, if you read the Talmud, you would know it's not literally poking, right? It's an appraisal. If you take the word for ayin, I, one letter up each letter by the Vilna Gaon's Torah, it spells kesef, which means money. So, like 9.9 out of 10 times, when you want to poke someone's eye out or kill them for keeping Shabbos, chances are that's not exactly what's going on. Keep that in mind. Okay, tzedek. Here is one of our favorite words. We have the Cohen tzedek for craftsmen. Shem is called the righteous priest. Then you have our other friend, the ger tzedek. This ger of righteousness or something. Right? We all have seen this word pop up, tzedek. What does it mean? What's it about? So King Solomon is charged by King David to be tzedek. If you remember, if Shem is Cohen tzedek, he is also Malki tzedek. My king is tzedek. And that's Shem's way of saying that Hashem is tzedek. Hashem is a king. He has a kingdom, Malchus, the last level of emanation that basically reveals everything to this world, is called tzedek. And the ger's domain is Malchus, i.e. tzedek. And when there's a repair of Malchus, which Kabbalistically is like the entire Torah, right? When the kingdom of God is manifest on earth, and largely you can say it's when the ger is part of Israel. Again, this like Tikkun Chatzos, the nighttime learning, when the ger is brought in, and just everything in the world is fixed. That's when tzedek becomes tzedakah, and righteousness prevails in the world. Okay. You're going to get a lot of flack for when people say ger tzedek is a convert. Have a nice day. Only the Zohar, in fact, I think never translates it as somebody who is now keeping 613 commandments. What they do call it as is a ger who basically is attached to the Sphira Malchus. Kingdom, revelation, tzedakah, tzedek, and there's a lot of variations of what it means. Layman's terms, it means tzedek is the qualification to ger. What kind of ger are you? Oh, well, I'm a righteous ger. Oh, so you're a ger tzedek, as opposed to a ger toshav. A ger toshav may be very idolatrous in perception. Right? He's keeping the 7 laws, and he sounds like he's still in the church. Because theoretically, you can leave the church one day, accept the 7 laws, tomorrow, you're kosher. You can do a lot of things. A lot. But you might not sound the part. You might not be suitable to keep Shabbat. Bring in a ger toshav who's well removed from anything. He knows where he's going. He knows the terrain. He knows what's going on. Imagine if you have, I don't know the words anymore from Israel. It's here it's like Tudat Zut, but when you, I don't know, some kind of diploma, for lack of a better term. Diploma. And I mean, I know this is a bad example, but bear with me. I don't know what documents work anymore. Israel's so backwards. Say it's magna cum laude. Okay, magna cum laude is allowed to swim in the indoor pool on campus. And for a Torah example, we'll call it the Ger Tzedek can eat of the Korban Pesach, the Passover offering, and the Ger Toshav cannot. Right? Is that a more realistic example? I don't know. I kind of like the idea of, I guess like buying software, right? Sometimes you buy the free version, and then you upgrade to the apps. We're talking about apps. Here's apps, right? You buy the paid version versus the free version. So tzedek is a qualification of righteousness that allows more Torah observance. There you go. And we said it's connected to Malchus and Tzedakah. Now, that's a very Ger topic. What is the bridge between the Jews and the Gerim on the most simple level? And that is tzedakah, right? If you have unkosher meat, you give it to the ger, and you sell it to the nachri. And if you look in the Chumash in Parshas Rei, where that is, I think it's 14, 21, or 22. My memory serves me well. And if you call that a convert, you're going to be saying this convert can eat nevela. That's a big no-no. So already we have an exact source. You cannot call the ger a convert at all. And it's based on this level of tzedakah. So tzedakah is you can say it's the essence of the Jew and the ger, to the pathway between the Jew and the ger. Because based on that meat, and meat is a worldwide language and culture. If we can exchange meat, which is why meat is the last mitzvah one should take on, is it gives universal language. It just does. Moses himself, in his name read in the Torah, he's called, in that his flesh is 120 years old, and he is referred to as flesh. So the universal kind of just olam hazeh, this world lifestyle, it might be a bit gross, but we understand meat. We understand flesh and the body. You don't have to get into spiritual talk all the time. Maybe the language changes then. Once we have a common association, eating, just life, then we can build on that, what's called a mitzvah l'chiyuso, a mitzvah of vitality. If I'm not taking care of your flesh, then anything else doesn't really count. You can give all the Torah of the world you want, but unless you're Moses, who's going to go for 40 days and nights, the guy's in trouble. I mean, it's kind of, you shouldn't have to be told to cater for a person's basic needs, but that's what it's based on. And then from there, the friendship and partnership develops. And it's interesting. Get this. This is a real doozy. And that is the way that, let's say, Shabbos observance works. If you break Shabbos, is there a kosher police that's going to come and drag you out of your home? Now, if you break it Shabbos in the kikar, and you tell everybody, hey, I am lighting a fire. Watch me do this. We say, don't do it or we'll kill you. He says, I don't care. I'm lighting fire. What are you going to do about it? And he does it. We say, okay, we're taking you to Beis Din and we're going to kill you. And you'll say, oh, how primitive. But seriously, do you want that kind of guy? Even if you're against the Torah, he's just kind of being, who needs that guy? I mean, it's like, if Kmart closes at 10, he says, I am going into Kmart at 11. It's just stupid. There's no reason to be belligerent to anything like that. So the Torah has witnesses, and you die if you transgress those that are capital, which is fine. I think everyone should understand that logically. But what if you, on Shabbos, turn the light switch on? No one saw. You don't. Maybe you know it's forbidden or not. There were no witnesses. You didn't do it out of spite to get back at God, which is why the other guy is so foolish. It's very foolish to get back at God. What do? And then they said, on a slightly lateral topic, how can you say there would be offerings in the third temple? Isn't it savage to slaughter an innocent animal? Right? We hear all these kind of social issues coming up. The answer is the temple run by the priests is literally a barbecue. Right? God gets his, everyone gets theirs. In the end, you sit down and you have a festive meal with the priests. Now, do you have to come and have a barbecue? If you don't want to come, that's between you and God. All right, if you don't want to know what you did was wrong, then don't ask anybody. Stay ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. And you know what? The Torah allows you to do that. If you sinned and you didn't check it out, after 120, you'll go up and they'll give you a cheshbon and you'll find out what you did wrong, what you didn't do wrong. And there, again, how far a person takes Yirah Shamayim, fear of heaven, that's on him. The good news is, don't view it as, I gotta bring this thing and go and do that. View it as tzedakah. Offering, charity, righteousness. Imagine you did a couple of averas throughout the months. The temple standing on the Temple Mount. The Kohanim are working the temple. And you say, to your family, you know what? We did a couple of sins. I checked it out. And we did stuff wrong. Let's go to Jerusalem and bring an offering. When you go to Jerusalem to bring an offering, what you're doing, and this is in the Torah, you're bringing commerce to Jerusalem. It's a big party in the holiest sense. Artisans are there, food. Jerusalem is the city of God. And by pumping the money into Jerusalem, again, tzedakah, you are bringing life to the capital, life to the temple. That temple puts out light to the nations. So you come, you buy your candles and your art and your tallis that ripped and a new Shabbos suit and a new sefer. Then you come to the temple, you see the Kohanim that you haven't seen in 5 years? You kick back, have fun, offer the animal. It's a totally mazel experience. You do tshuva because you see the world of Atzilus. You see what's going on. Sit down, have what's called a Sudas mitzvah, a holy meal with the priests, and you go about your business. That is called the tzedakah that's given to the temple. Right? You don't just slaughter for the sake of slaughtering, and this is not kosher police. You're doing it because you want to get close to God. You want to do tshuva. You want to better your ways. You want the temple to thrive. You want Jerusalem to thrive, etc., etc. Let's say you're very stringent on what to do, so you would give a lot of tzedakah. By giving the tzedakah, you'll learn what to do. So it's a total win-win situation. If you sin, it's not the end of the world. You do tshuva. You don't sin in order that you'll do tshuva. But live your life. Noahides forget this. This, to me, is the biggest sin of the Noahide. Live your life. Now, if you do as a Ben Noach wasn't accepted anything, that's capital offense. Once you're over that hump, which is why the ger matters, and particularly the ger tzedek, then you enter a new realm of tzedakah. You have the opportunity to visit the temple, just to grow, be close to God. The growth you want to go of what you think you did wrong, answer it up in this world versus the next. It's not so much as a danger or threat. It's an opportunity at its highest level to get close to God. And that's what this world is an opportunity to get close to God. When Abraham was with Shem, and by the covenant, the bris ben of Asarim, the covenant of the parts of the animals, God says to Abraham, I considered this for you as righteousness, or as tzedakah. What God is saying to Abraham is, Abraham, you understand, this world is an opportunity to know God, to exist in the hand of God, as a unique opportunity to know God of creation. Before we get to the world to come, and we'll see God, or whatever He is revealed at that time, God the King. We don't even know God the King. You've never seen God the King. You've never seen the third temple standing. Until then, you don't know God the King. You can fathom what God the King would be. But while we're here, we're with God the Creator. And God tells us what His name is as the King, Yod-Kei Vav-Kei. King David says, yeah, Yod-Kei Vav-Kei Hashem Hu Elokim. I got it. But you know what? This world is about an opportunity to get to know God, the Creator, the name Elokim. That's our salvation we're talking about. Is there a greater salvation than feeling the drowning of, I got to get to Jerusalem? Again, I use the English word here because I know it pains the eardrum to use the Hebrew. It pains me too. It shouldn't be that way. But that's what happens. There's an old saying that when the Arabs started bowing on carpets, we stopped. The word is Yeshua. Like King David talks about Yeshua all through Tehillim. Salvation. The salvation's coming when you feel like you're drowning. And that's God saying, okay, here we go. Buckle up. And you say, oh man, I don't know where we're going. Are they going to kill me? Lashon hara. What's the story here, God? God says, do you trust me? Yeah, I guess I have to. You say, all right, here we go. And God brings you through, and then King David says, God, they're killing me. God, they're after me. Wow, God, look at that. They fell down. God, you saved me. You're the best. I love you, God. I will always praise you. It's like Dillo every time, is it not? Every single time. So that's the idea of being flushed out of where you are and ending up in Jerusalem. Really, we're all being flushed out of our solitude, you know, in the country club status, and we're being pulled to Jerusalem. And that all roads lead to Zion. That's where we're all going. And it's the ultimate tzedakah. Even when redemption comes, you're going to feel that name of God, Elokim. And you have to say, Hashem Hu Elokim. This is the King. I know the Creator, and the Creator is the King. But if you don't know the Creator, how do you know the King? That's what King David's on about. If we're going to know the King, we got to know the Creator. And that is the salvation of this world. It's the basis of the king's Torah. Which brings us to the next topic, Shalom. If you remember, Abraham called Jerusalem Yira, fear. Shem called it Shalom, peace. We learned this morning, Gera ben Tishbi, that there's 70 faces to the oral Torah and 50 faces or understanding to the written Torah. This is 120 faces altogether, which is the level of, here you go, Elohim. And no, I did not just say God's name. We call Elohim the level of the angels. It's different vowels or connotation. And this is signified by the bread and the wine of Melchizedek. The Torah of what's called Kruvim, the angelic man. He who defeats his Yetzer Hara, evil inclination, wrestles with the divine and overcomes, as the name Israel implies. Not for naught that Jacob wrestled and became Israel. So in Shir Hashirim, I think it was chapter 2, verse 4, if I'm not mistaken, or 5, one of the two, that we mentioned 3 levels of eating, drinking, and shade. And the angels have only eating and drinking. Not physically, literally, but in their nourishment. Moses was given the level of 120 like an angel. When he died, he reached perfect understanding of the Torah. Non Shari Bina. And it's the love of that God gives to man as he's missing the one gate of understanding, which is signified by the ger. But by able to, God then able to love man. And the Jew and the ger can then love each other and God. The ger comes in, the oral Torah faces now make sense vis-a-vis the ger of the Chumash. And you have the Kruvim status of Har Sinai. When they said, we will do and we will listen. They lost it to the golden calf. That is the messianic level that comes back when the Torah is perfected. And that perfection is as Shem with Abraham called Jerusalem peace. Shalom. It's the same peace that Pinchas, who is Elijah, which is again the Torah of Kruvim. Elijah is one of these man-angel souls. All the great tzaddikim righteous in the Tanakh basically reach this level. Whether it's Joshua, Moses, Pinchas, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph, David. All your stars reach this level. And when Pinchas killed Zimri and Cosby, he earned what peace really is. That he stood up for the one character that nobody wishes to stand up for. Your friend and mine, the Ger Tzedek. Even Moses sat down for that one. It's his whole battle with being married to Zipporah. What will the people say? The Ger Tzedek is not someone that people want to stand up for. Shem and Abraham stood up for that Ger Tzedek. We mentioned the love is the missing level of the Torah. Abraham received the Torah from Shem, who is called Shem Oavi. Shem, my lover, God calls him. But Shem, by giving over the Torah to the Ger Tzedek Rishon, the first one who was a Ger Tzedek in Abraham, Abraham is also called Abraham, my lover. And Pinchas then is the ultimate messianic figure for maintaining the love of the Ger Tzedek for all of time. By the threat of Zimri and Cosby to pervert the Torah of the Ger Tzedek by lowering the guard and saying, it's just Ger Toshav. There's no Ger Tzedek. Everything would be Sorer Umoreh, wayward children. If you want to destroy the world, that's the best way to do it. Only we don't have the power to do so. Because the Shekhinah that comes down in the illumination of the Ger Tzedek is coming from God. The signs come from God. Just like with Rachel and Leah, with Jacob on the wedding night, the signs that they shared, how to identify the Ger Tzedek. Pinchas knew the sign. And these Kruvim know the sign. All through time, all through the Tanakh, they've been defended. And Pinchas was rewarded with a covenant of peace. As the Kohen Tzedek that he is, the righteous priest, just like Shem, who came before him. We see the Messianic trail is all about the Ger Tzedek. Whether it be the whole tribe of Judah, Joshua and Rachav. As the Zohar and Sefer Gogolin point out, this is the repair of that Malchus, the kingdom of the Ger Tzedek. One can even say that is the message of Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, the Book of Love. We know it's a love story between the Jews and the Shekhinah and God. It's very much also the love story of the Jew and the Ger. By definition, that's not wrong. Shir HaShirim is the highest intellect, Mochim. It's inspiration, period. Thus, by definition of what inspiration is, if the shoe fits, it works. Now we'll go on to verse 3. We mentioned the hills and the mountains and the valleys. King David makes it very consistent in his writings that the hills that break through earthquakes and all these things, that's false religion. Klippa. And what brings down and disintegrates those lands are the truth of the 7 laws of Noah. Even to the point that in a Beis Din will try Gog v'Magog as guilty. And the hills breaking and seas splitting and drowning, King David says what this is, in his writings, this is the Torah of Mazal. When David tells you he's drowning, if you were to articulate how you feel at the time salvation comes upon you, you would say, yeah, I do feel like I'm drowning. Thus the allegorical becomes the literal. And the literal becomes the figurative language of expression. And King David describes pushing this message out. It's not enough to know the message. You have to push the message out. Literally hold it by the hand and carry it all over the world. You can't just push the turbo button and say, I'm done. You have to go out and make peace and make friends with the world. It's the old school way of doing it, even if technology helps you. You can't just push a button. Noah tried that. That was the one flaw Noah had. If I can make peace in the world by just taking away their discomfort, will that be enough? Noah found out no. It has to be nice. It's not nice to hire someone to take your kid out to play in the jungle gym. Yes, you thought of them. Yes, it was nice. You have to take him out by the hand and play with them and smile and remove the ayin sarah, the eyes of disgust. The repair of the eyes. To be able to see only that which is holy and pure. This is the ultimate level, the removal of the Yetzer Hara. You have to, and also the highest level of the Torah of Emunah, faith. It has to be, on the highest level, it has to be this woman and this ethnic person, this white guy, whatever race and gender you want to throw in there. It has to be that they are human beings with a soul, and the animalistic desire cannot even flinch. That's how deep humanity has to get to in peace for this thing to work. And that's the repair of the eyes. People are people. They have to be respected as such. It's just never going to work if our eyes chase us down all over the place and we view people against us as animals like us. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, must go away. The defeat over the angelic kingdom must happen. The level of Kruvim, just battling the divine test. Just like Abraham did with the binding of Isaac and everybody in the Torah that we know. Joseph beat his inclination, so forth and so on. David saved Jerusalem from the sword that was going to destroy it with Aravna, the Ger Tzedek. Because David saw that Aravna was a man. As the Tillim says, peace will be found between man and his friend. Anything short of that just won't work. It starts on the lowest level of the mouth, speaking, hearing, smelling, and all that time the eyes are running wild. The eyes represent the level of wisdom. The eyes must have no sarah, complications to them. This is how we repair Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. But Adam really fell for the most lustful sin of all. He did not appreciate the ger. And that's where the seichel and the mind will be liberated. When we no longer lust and hate and fight and claim and all these things, when we can treat humanity equally, we'll be able to hear the voice of God coming through, just like that breastplate of the high priest that has the names of the tribes and the Urim V'Tumim, the Jew and the ger bringing down revelation. That's a nice way of saying male, female. The Jew, the ger, male, female, the same thing. When they work together by not seeing the form, or lack of form, but the soul radiating from within, then the divine revelation will come down, peace will prevail, Torah is on earth, as the Pasuk says, the knowledge of God will fill the world. All the fighting will go away. This is what King Solomon is being charged by King David to say. Don't let the Jews and the Gerim fight. Don't let there be ad hominem. Well, you're just a non-Jew. Or don't let the non-Jew say, you're just a Jew. You don't own me. I'm just trying to help you. No, go away. We don't need you. Kamash Milan, we do need each other. There is no separation, and fighting just won't cut it. And David knows that. He's saying, please, just don't fight. There's going to be dispute. There's going to be judgment. Make it right. Make it to the honor of God. After all this discourse, there's only one thing left. Why are the Gerim called the poor? And the answer is, I wrote a responsive for this. This is my thesis. Pay attention. Let's say there's a convert. And the Rambam says, be careful of making converts because they might lose interest and become a bad convert, and it's bad for the Jews. Unfortunately, I've seen things like this. It has happened. So let's say he converted, really, really shoddy based it. He's on the outskirts. He hates Jews. But for some reason, he wants to identify as a Jew. And it's a balagan. It is a balagan. So he would be the Ger Tzedek convert, the destitute of Israel. He wrote us off. We wrote him off. Just one of those things. And then let's say you have a Ger Toshav. He happens to live in Israel. His mom was going to convert, and they left him here. He never felt like leaving. He keeps his 7 and no more. He's not interested in anything. He lives far out from the city. Nothing to do with anybody. He is as non-Jewish as possible. He's also considered a destitute for obvious reasons. Now let's make a flip side analogy. Here's a guy from Dayton, Ohio. He gets to Israel and he says, I'm going to be the best Ger Toshav ever. I love it. It's the truth. I'm brand new, but I see it's good. Now, we don't know you from Adam. Maybe you're a problem. Maybe you're not. Now, deep down, you know you're not a problem, and there's some people that know you're not a problem. But not everyone knows you. So you're still the destitute of Israel as a Ger Toshav. We just don't know this guy. And unfortunately, too many people are not acquainted with the Ger Toshav, and it seems kind of funny. Then he grows up more. He's a Ger Tzedek. He's in the community. But again, he's new. They don't totally get it. Right? I mean, the Ger Tzedek knows what this is like. And some people get it, some people don't. They say, what's a Noahide? You say, you never heard of a Noahide? He says, no, I never heard of a Noahide. So this is also considered the destitute of Israel. Now, if you notice, it's almost like one's coming up and into the community, and one's on his way out. So I like to use a Mitch Hedberg joke for this. Bigfoot is just blurry. It's not the photographer's fault. Right? We've all seen pictures of Bigfoot, and he's always blurry. There's no such thing as a one-sided Ger. Don't just tell me the Ger Tzedek is only a convert, and don't tell me he's only a non-Jew. There's always two sides to the Ger. And in the image of the destitute is the best depiction of how we can see two sides to the same coin. So are the Gerim only poor and destitute? No. Is it the lowest common denominator that works? Yes. What does the Talmud say? There will never cease to be the destitute of the land. With proper context, we can understand what that means. Most people think that the world's just poor and miserable, and people just won't get their act together. When the Ger comes into the Torah, we have a bit of better context. We can understand a very simple remedy. That context is everything, and that is the difference between 49 gates of understanding, and pay attention to the word gate, as in the Ger of the gate, or 50 gates of understanding, Nun Shari Bina. The bottom line is the secret of the Ger Tzedek. As King David tells King Solomon, if you're fighting, don't tread upon one another. There's a concept called Hod v'Hadar. Imagine a reed in a storm. And you say, that's a good-looking reed. That's Hod, majesty, beauty. And you say, well, let me tell you about that reed. He withstood a whole tornado. You say, that reed withstood a tornado? Yeah. Well, that's Hadar. Meaning the Hod is even greater than I thought. Hod v'Hadar. And most of the time when the bad guy goes up against the Ger will give him a beating. And he says, well, Hod v'Hadar, but I win. Or even vice versa. The really stark Ger beats up the secular Jew and he says, I win. You should know this stuff. Why don't you know this stuff? King David said to have the vessels of war of Hod v'Hadar. And they shouldn't be used to glorify one over the other. He tells King Solomon, make it righteous. What we can truly say is in last week's Parsha, Moses says to Hashem, take me out of your book if you're not going to stick up for the people. God said, I will choose who I put in my book and who I don't. If you look closely, who came out on the short end of the stick, pun intended? The Gerim. They were basically removed from the book. And just like that reed of Hod v'Hadar, don't view them as they were out of the book. View it as a storm of over 2,000 years. And now, as they're coming back to Torah, and Nun Shari Bina is restored, as King David charged King Solomon, we can properly say it will be considered the Ger Tzedek Hod v'Hadar. Thank you very much. Have a great week. See everybody for the Parsha class on Wednesday.